Most of us probably aren't spending as much time in the woods as we would like. For me personally, between planning a wedding, editing videos, and all of the other stuff that comes up in life, it can be really easy to wake up one day and be like, holy shit, I haven't gone backpacking in a month. But backpacking is a skill that I'm committed to developing, and just like any other skill, consistency is key. To that end, I've developed a handful of habits that make it a bit easier to get out into the woods regularly so that I can continue to work on my craft. Here are 5 tips that I want to share with you for how I reduce some of the friction of putting together a trip on short notice. Tip number 1 is that I keep my bag packed. Instead of unloading everything when I get home from a trip, I keep what I can in my bag so that I can spend less time searching for things when I'm ready to go back out again. I'll still need to dry some things if it was raining, wash my clothes, and uncompress my down gear, of course. But the point is to have most of my commonly used gear items living in my pack rather than on shelves in my gear closet where I have to go hunting for them. My gear list changes throughout the year, and I'm sure yours does too. So what lives in my pack will have to change as well, but it's usually a safe bet that I'll need at least some of the things that I took with me on the trip prior. Personally speaking, some of the things that always live in my pack are my pack liner, ditty bag, water filter, cook kit, and a headlamp. You could definitely leave your tent in there as well. I just happen to change tents pretty often depending on whether or not Lynn and I are going out together. You could use a bin for this purpose as well, which is something that I used to do. The main advantage being that you can just chuck stuff in there when it's dry or after you're done washing it, rather than having to put it away neatly in your pack. The easier it is, the more likely it is that you'll actually do it. I just switched to keeping it directly in my pack just because it fits a little bit better in my gear cabinet that way. Remember that the key here, just like with all the other tips on this list, isn't to be perfect, but to remove friction and prevent any feelings that you don't have time to prepare for a trip. Tip number 2 is that I schedule days that I want to go backpacking way in advance, and I try to keep a regular schedule. This is probably the one that I struggle with the most, as it's really easy to let the commitments of everyday life bleed into the commitment that I've made to myself to spend more time out on trail. But the key word here is definitely try, as having that intention puts me in a much better place to succeed than if I had relied on spur-of-the-moment inspiration to get me out of my nice warm house and into the cold Washington rain for an evening. I'm a big believer that if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. I have no idea who came up with that phrase, but we've all heard it a billion times, and for me, it's especially true. So backpacking trips sit on my calendar as a regular, repeating event. Like I said, I don't always stick to it, but it's always there reminding me of my commitment to myself and the sport that I love. And I believe that the gentle reminder, even if I sometimes ignore it, increases the chances that it'll actually happen. Tip number 3 is that I keep a list of trails that I want to hike, as well as trails that I've already hiked that I know that I like, that I can return to. Well, honestly, Lynn is the one that keeps the list of new trails because she's proven to be much better about being proactive at finding new trails that we'll both enjoy. Here's a little secret. I generally repeat the same trails over and over again when I go out on my own. I know this is all about adventure and exploration and whatnot, but researching new hikes when I know that I want to get out the next day is often a bit of a mental hurdle for me, especially this time of year when there's snow in the Cascades and options are kind of limited. I'm admittedly a creature of habit, and having a handful of trips that I know I enjoy streamlines the whole process and makes it that much more likely that I'll actually get out that week. I know the roads to get there, I know the trail, I know the campsites, and I know which ones I like. In a perfect world, I would find some sort of new and magical trail each time that I go out, but in practice, this strategy helps me get on the trail consistently. Tip number 4 is that I prep and package my foods ahead of time. I'm the type of person that eats the same foods over and over again, both at home and on the trail. Ever since being on an elimination diet for my psoriatic arthritis, I've found that I'm no longer concerned with culinary boredom since I'd grown accustomed to eating the same foods just in slightly different configurations for almost a year. And I think that most people probably vastly overestimate the amount of variety that they need in their diet, especially when it comes to trail food. And this could potentially overcomplicate prepping for a trip. Even if you consider yourself a backcountry chef, you can probably still get a head start on most of your meals and ingredients so that things are more or less ready to go when you're ready to head out on a trip. These days I normally have some sort of oatmeal for breakfast, bars, jerky, nut, and dried fruit throughout the day, and some kind of rice-based dinner followed by some dark chocolate. So every so often I'll buy a bunch of food either on sale or in bulk, prep breakfasts and dinners based on a handful of recipes that I like, and package up any bulk snacks like nuts into 3-ounce portions. Then I just throw it all in a bin in my pantry. Before I head out, I grab a breakfast and a dinner for each full day that I expect to be on trail and put it on my scale. Then throw in snacks up until I hit 1.5 pounds of food per day. This is all based on my food being around 125 calories per ounce, and your mileage may vary depending on your caloric needs and what kind of food you like. Backpacking food could totally be its own video or series of videos. Andrew Skirka has a great video on how to pack food for a backpacking trip, as well as some awesome recipes on his website, and I'll make sure to link both down below in the description. They're resources that I reference often, so you should definitely check them out when you have a moment. As always, none of this is meant to rain on anyone's parade. If one of your favorite parts of backpacking is eating amazing and unique meals while at camp, keep on doing your thing and don't let me stop you. Tip number 5 is that I keep a master gear list handy to reference and make packing really easy. This is a list of all the stuff that I could possibly need to take with me, and it's nothing fancy, just a Google Doc. This doesn't include specific gear items by name, more general things like puffy jacket, beanie, sleep socks, that sort of thing. I'll grab the right option within those categories when I'm packing based on the conditions that I expect. Having this gear list handy relieves a huge mental burden of just staring blankly at the gear cabinet, trying to figure out what to take with me. There's also the safety aspect. Nobody likes to get out on trail and realize that they forgot a rain jacket or something like that. I'm considering making a shareable version of this master gear list, so if that's something that you think would help you get out on trail more often, please let me know down below in the comments and I'll get to work on making it. Of course, a generic gear list can only get you so far, so check out this video next to see what's currently in my pack. The video is from this past fall, but the loadout's still the same. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.